the evening. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Cohasset Conservation Commission meeting. Today is Thursday, November 4th, 2021. We are holding this meeting this evening in the Town of Cohasset Conservation Commission via Zoom on a remote platform. My name is Jay Pimpari. Our chairman, Mr. McFarland, is under the weather this evening. Therefore, I will be chairing tonight's meeting. In attendance, we have our conservation agent, Charlotte Pechtel. We have our conservation administrator, Angela Giso. And if you just say present or aye after I call your name, please do so for full-time voting members. Kathy Berrigan.
Aye. Present. Present.
I'm not used to this alphabetical order stuff. I already messed it up. Will Ashton.
Present. Thank you.
Eric Eisenhower.
Always present.
And I skipped right over Mr. Tom Bell. Sorry, Tom.
No problem. Present.
Jay Pimpari, present. Chris McIntyre is our associate.
Chris McIntyre, present.
So we have a voting quorum of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 voting members this evening. Thank you. We just want to say at the beginning here, if anyone is here for the 502 North Main Street notice of intent, that is going to be continued until November 18th. On our agenda this evening, we have first up 12 Hobart Lane, followed by an amended order of conditions for the 811, 819 Jerusalem Road, Greek Orthodox Church. So without further ado, the first item of business on the agenda tonight is 12 Hobart Lane. It is for a regrade of the yard, extend the drive. Notice of intent 21-16. This is a continuance from a meeting that was held on October 21st, 2021. Just to bring everybody briefly up to speed, after the last hearing, there was a site visit that was conducted on October 14th, 2021. Several members of the commission were in attendance for that. It was a scheduled hearing. There have been some documents that were submitted last minute on this project. Unfortunately, we just got them today. There was some drainage calculations, and then there were a couple of revised plans. I don't know if anyone, since it was submitted very late, I don't know if anybody's had a chance to look at them in great detail. I have glanced at them a little bit. I have not looked at the stormwater drainage calculations in depth because they were submitted at the last hour here. I also have to say, we also did receive a comment letter from one of the abutters, and there was a comment letter that was submitted from that same abutter prior to the last hearing. Charlotte, before I turn it over to the applicant, is there anything you want to add to that?
At this time, no, other than the members who were present at the site visit back in October, I think it was October 14th, were Jay, Chris McFarland, and Eric Eisenhower, and myself as the agent.
Great, thank you.
Jay, may I ask you a question, please?
Yes.
The late submissions, do they constitute a change in scope or direction of the project at all?
Yes, they do. And so what I'm gonna ask the applicant to actually go over the application, go over the revisions. And I believe that there's definitely a change to the current proposal that we had seen of October earlier on. And so yes, there is a change. But again, why don't we turn it over to the applicant and let them give a little brief description of the project, talk about the changes, and then we'll open it up for public comment. The commission will ask some questions, and we'll open it up for comment, and we'll deliberate on the project and decide what the next steps are. So if I could ask, I don't know if Gary is gonna, and if you could present your screen, I'm gonna ask you to present your screen. That would be very helpful as well. I don't know if Gary or Paul's gonna talk first, or Joe's gonna talk here. I see that you've all been promoted. You're all still muted, but if somebody would unmute themselves to represent the applicant, just state your name, address, and affiliation for the record, please. Thank you.
Joe Mariah, homeowner.
a 12 bar.
Oh, there we go.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, guys. Hi, everybody.
If you want, yeah, I can present this, Jay.
Yeah, that would be.
Let me
Do
share
that.
my-
If you
let me
could
share my
present your
screen.
screen, that be easier because I'm sure you're going to jump around and again, would like to hear about the changes as a result of the latest plan that I believe was just submitted this afternoon, and talk a little bit about that before we decide any next steps.
Hold on.
And again, in an ideal world here, I know this was a continued hearing, but we would like to see these applications or revisions submitted at least 7 days in advance. I know you were probably
I
working on it.
understand
Last
that.
week was a little difficult with the power delay, with the power outage, et cetera. So cut you a little bit of slack, but would really like to see these applications and documentation for the commission in advance, so we're not scurrying around, and this is not the first time we're seeing it.
Oh, why can't I get that up? Oh, there it is right there. Okay. There we go. There we go. All right, this is the revised drawing in for under the proposed conditions. And what we have done is, based on our site walk, we've made some revisions to this in order to address some of the concerns that were addressed at the site walk. Primarily, and let me blow it up a little bit. What we have done is, based on, I believe Mr. McFarland, I'm not, question relative whether or not we could save some of the Norway maples on the far side. So what we have done is, as you can see right in here, we're proposing to pull that wall in that slope to allow us the ability to pretty much save every tree in this corner. We eliminated all of the grading in this corner, and there were 3 or 4 Norway maples. They were rather small. I think they were less than 6 to 8 inches, but we'll still be able to allow us the ability to be able to save every one of them. If you remember,
Gary,
right?
excuse me, could you show with your pointer where the wall was before and where it is now, please? You said you pulled it back.
Well, it used to be right on the property line, Eric.
Yeah, okay.
Now it's back. And what I have done also is I provided, if you look at this, what we have done is we've pushed it back to allow ourselves the ability, this was on the recommendation of Paul Shea, to be able to provide a 5-foot area here between the existing rubble wall and the proposed wall, to allow us the ability to create a vegetative buffer. What we did was we went all the way back to what was the original flag wetland line from the 179 Atlantic Ave filing. If you look at the cross section, and there it is, you can see there's the existing wall, and all our proposal is to just reshape those stones, pull it up about 2 feet just to get this area out of the water, pull off the loam that's currently sitting over the ledge, replace it with some sand fill, and then put 12 inches of loam fill over there, and then revegetate that and create that 5-foot wide area of vegetation. So it'll probably be about 7 to 8 feet between the property line and the toe of the slope on this. And essentially what it ends up being is approximately about 700 square feet will be reestablished as a wetland in order to provide some mitigation in association with that, with the proposed improvements. Now, this was on the plan originally, which is the stormwater improvements. And if you look at the calcs, I mean, it's pretty simple because it's not a big change. The only real change in the overall use was the proposed driveway expansion, which is only 470 square feet. But we will be picking up all of the leaders coming off of the backside of the house. So about half of the house will get picked up. And we'll also get that. This will act, because there's no soil, we cannot recharge the groundwater, because in reality, there is no ability because of the presence of the ledge. But what we will have the ability to do is create what will qualify under as a BMP, will qualify as a sand filter. And it will provide the 80% TSS removal associated with required under the standards. So we can do that, and it's in there. The lag time associated with the time for the water to get through the sand and then finally come back out.
I'm sorry, Gary. Excuse me. It sounds to me like you're putting in some sort of filtration system there. I don't quite understand. I have a
Yes.
very weak engineering background. Could we go back to ground zero possibly? And could you
We're
explain
putting
what
in,
you're trying to achieve here?
subsurface. Yes, Eric, we're putting in a subsurface system. And essentially, because there is no native soil here, it's nothing but ledge, it will be designed specifically as a sand filter. And in accordance with the requirements under Volume 2, Chapter 2, you really have to provide 18 inches of sand beneath it for it to act as a filter and provide you with that 80% TSS removal. So we're actually proposing to put 4 feet of sand underneath the system to allow us the ability to be able to provide, to meet that requirement.
Gary, can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
A little to the right of where your cursor is now, where your mouse is with the existing rock wall, yeah, that area right there. Is there any reason why you couldn't put the infiltration chamber in that area? That's an elevated area. It seems like you have more than ample space over there.
I could push it back. I mean, I can push it back a little bit. I can definitely push it back a little bit. I couldn't get it all contained within the limits of that area, but I can definitely push it back.
Gary, wasn't that a septic drain field behind that?
At one point it was. At one point it was a septic field. I'm really not quite sure where it's located. I know it was a septic field.
So back to Jay's point, it looks like you have plenty of room there to put it in an infiltration chamber, and presumably it perks, right?
Presumably it does. My gut reaction is they probably did the exact same thing I was proposing here, but yeah, it could.
And, you know, I'm not going to tell you how to design the system, but an 8-foot by 50-foot system we don't see those too often in front of conservation. That's a fairly large system. It's 400 square feet of infiltration chamber there. That seems like certainly a decent sized system. I know maybe that footprint, well, I think that footprint probably could fit up in the back there, but if it were sized a little bit differently, it surely could fit. Is there any reason why you needed 400 square foot, 8 by 50 chamber there?
It's only storing, the overall storage is only about 1.6, 1.7 inches of runoff coming off of the impervious surfaces. So it's not, you know, the chambers themselves are not that, they're only 16 inches tall. So there's only about 800 cubic feet of storage inside this. It's really not that big when you look at it.
Okay.
Yeah, the good thing about it was that the way I sized it, I mean, I sized it that way because I had the ability to be able to get it in there. Jay. Yeah. That was, I mean, normally I like to get somewhere in a range of about 2 inches of storage in these subsurface structures, but in this one, I pretty much, I got it limited to about 1.5. But the good thing about it was that you had absolutely no runoff coming out of it, even through the overflow, until you got to the 100-year storm. You needed 7 inches of rainfall to actually provide it, to have any discharge coming out of it. So everything was going back through the sand. So it was a good system. Now, admittedly, I could move it back.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not gonna sugarcoat. I could move it back.
Okay.
How far back? You know, I'm not really quite sure. I'd have to go back and look at the records associated with the septic design to see how far back I can move it.
Okay. That's
Gary,
one of the comments I had.
Gary, the water that is percolating there through that structure, its origin is where?
It's the roof and the driveway.
Where is that water? Where is that water going now?
On the backside of the lot.
Yeah, where is that water going now?
It pretty much
You're not
goes on.
building. The building is already there, the roof and the driveway. I'm trying to understand where the incremental impervious area is that gives rise to that filtration need.
It's right there. It's right there, it's shaded right there. It's that proposed expansion, about 470 square feet.
Okay.
You know, all we're really doing with the driveway expansion is just allowing us the ability to be able to get into that second garage door and have the ability to turn around, because right now you can't. If you come in, you actually got to back out of the driveway. And understand this, like by pulling the walls in, especially in this area, it really gave us the ability to be able to, we don't have to take down any trees. We're not clearing any of the area over in here, so whatever trees are remaining. And I know Mr. McFarland was very interested in maintaining, I think there's like 4 or 5 of the Norway maples that are right along the wall. So by pulling it back, we certainly can save them.
Gary, there were 12 Norway maples roughly in the area where you're extending the driveway backwards. Away
To the left?
from the wall.
You mean right up in
Those are
here?
still yeah, those are still going down, I take it?
No. Our intent would be just to leave them alone. In other words, if we're not gonna grade it out, there's no need to take them down. And I think the biggest issue is we didn't want to take down the oak, because it was the one specimen tree we thought was, especially after the site walk and speaking with Charlotte about it, that was the one specimen tree we didn't want to take down.
Okay, thank you.
So the benefit is that the Norway maples are going to get saved because of the presence and because of their proximity to that oak.
And I just want to comment as well, if anyone from the audience is listening, since we're on a remote platform, if they have any questions or any comments, to please put that in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen there, and we will address that during this public hearing. So please continue, Gary.
No, that's Jay, I'm gonna hand the hearing back to you. That's pretty much it. The one good benefit too is that by pulling the walls back, I think I pulled back probably about 300 cubic yards, so we're down about 970, where it was 1,300 at one point on the original.
Yeah.
So you're going to bring fill into the 50-foot, within the 50-foot buffer, is that correct?
Yes,
Where's that going to come from?
it'll be all sand fill.
Do we have
I'm
some
not
sort
gonna-
of
I'm not
a
gonna
regulation
bring any
about
random time. It's gonna be all sand fill.
not being able to use fill from off-site? Eric, I think I'd address that to you, because I think you were mentioning that on a project that we reviewed a while ago, that you just can't bring any old dirt in here into the 50-foot buffer and use it as fill. Is that right?
Well, that if
Yeah, go ahead, Jay.
if the project were to be, or any project were to be approved, that would be more like a special condition to that. Regulations, I haven't dove into that or looked at it recently about the quality of the fill, et cetera. But I mean, I'll cut right to the chase. I think that I think you have a real challenge in front of you here with this application. And it's very clear that there is work proposed in the 50-foot buffer zone, not a little bit of work. There is a significant alteration within the 50-foot buffer. You are proposing to bring in almost 1,000 cubic yards of material into the buffer zone. I honestly have to say, if you read section 1, look at the definition of alter. I'm not going to read that, but you can read that through. I'm sure you hopefully are very familiar with the definition of alter. There is a significant alteration here. I believe there's also an impact on the wetland itself. As to talk about the wetland delineation, I know that we're using a wetland delineation from the neighboring property from a few years back. And it's not been disputed that the wetland line is virtually the property line where the Phragmite line is. And, looking at this, I really don't, I understand the situation where you want to have a level backyard. And if it was my backyard, I'd probably want to do the same thing as well. But I don't see that there's a hardship factor here. You have a backyard that's it's a wet area, as many areas of Cohasset are. Most of the backyard off the back deck is a low-lying wet area that is adjacent to a bordering vegetated wetland. As you can see, coming off of the back deck, it significantly drops off. Again, the justification to fill it in so I can have a flat backyard. And I'm looking at the deck and I understand there may be a potential safety concern. Is there, you don't have to answer this question now, but I'll throw the comment out there, is on the other side of the deck, could the stairs be put over the other side of the deck that go over to the sewer ejection station area that go out to a more flat area over the other side? And so I see that there's an alternative to going down the steps and going, potentially straight down this hill by moving the steps to the other side of the deck. And with the infiltration chamber there, I don't see any reason why the infiltration chamber has to be, I don't know, roughly 15 feet from the edge of the wetland, and we have to bring in 1,000 yards of fill and bring this whole area up with a retaining wall and bring in 8 feet of complete fill when the infiltration chamber could be moved up, although still potentially in the 50, but on the up gradient side of the existing stone wall. So, you have an existing stone wall that's kind of a mound at the top. Well, not a mound, but it's that, I don't even know what shape that is, forms a shape there. It's almost like you want to extend and put another existing retaining wall, just extending that retaining wall. And so you've got ample space in the back there as far as I'm concerned. I also look at, and I'm going to just continue on here because the commission can feel free to jump in here. With section 13, I did of our bylaws, I looked at the variance request, and I understand the variance request, but I honestly don't see anything rare and unusual about this situation at all. I could say the same, this project for many of the houses that are on Little Harbor, that are on Jerusalem Road, that are on Atlantic Ave, that border the Little Harbor and the ocean, where people come out their back steps and there's basically a cliff there. And so, again, bringing in 1,000 yards of fill to just extend out a backyard, so for recreational purposes, is not in the best interest of our bylaws, of the wetland itself. The neighboring property at 187 Atlantic Ave underwent extreme scrutiny for their boardwalk, several hearings where we deliberated over and over. And, in my view, I cannot support this project as is. Now, again, I don't want to sit here till 11 o'clock at night, and I'm only one commissioner.
Neither do I, Jay.
Excuse me?
Neither do I.
Yeah. So, I would be personally, and again, I'll open up the floor to other commissioners. I don't know how they feel, but I cannot support this project as is. I would be willing to listen to something along the lines of keeping the existing retaining wall, and potentially, if you blow this area up, maybe extending and I'm not telling you how to do the project, but if you can't move the stairs around, to bring the existing wall up along like the 22-foot gradient. And there's just way too much fill in the 50-foot buffer zone. That this project is not a project that this commission has historically approved over the past 8 years. That's not justification for not approving it tonight, but for the same reason that we don't see these projects. There's just too much of an impact to the buffer zone, too much of an alteration. And, I'll stop right there, but I don't want to deliberate this all night long. I'm not supportive of this project. I'll open it up to any other commissioners who have any comments.
I tend to agree with Jack. I would say one thing that has not been brought up, I think you're talking here with 800 to 1,000 tons of soil being brought in. A significant change in the runoff and the hydrology down into the resource area in the buffer zone down below, under the small stone wall. I think that would change dramatically. In terms of the child safety issue, which I'm very sympathetic toward, the first thing you want to do is to put a fence up on the barrier that's there right now, so a child can fall off of the existing fence, whether it's a hedge or a fence. But ample things can be done to make the existing area secure, and also in case any work is done there. But in my over 4 years on the Concom, I have never seen anyone bring in 800 to 1,000 yards of material except one. And that person had to take it all away in the end because it was not allowed. But this is this is beyond just a little push of the rules. This is a major step into an area that it has always been very delicate and sensitive for the Concom in terms of the altering the buffer zone and the resource area impact. So
I'd say I feel about the same way. Adding the stone wall, putting in the infiltration chamber within the 50-foot buffer, bringing in so much fill. I can't support this.
I think you could have with some, I would say, major modifications to this, you could still make something work where you have a little bit of a backyard area where the existing wall is now. Although it is in the 50-foot buffer, if the wall were falling down or structural needed to be repaired, I would look towards supporting, if needed, a repair of that existing wall. And, even if he had to go up an extra foot or so, moving the infiltration chamber up on the upgradient side of the existing wall, as Mr. Eisenhower mentioned, if safety is an issue, you could put either bushes or hedges or, a little some security apparatus around the existing wall. And then, which we haven't talked about, is moving the staircase, because I understand that they're coming off the stairs there. Could be a concern, but unfortunately, it's always been that way. It's a significant slope off the back, and it's a low-lying wet area in the back. We all walked it. Unless you had hip waders on, you were going to be wet down there. And and looking at historical pictures, it looks like there was always vegetation in that area. I don't have to. The exhibits show that it was a vegetated area. Even the abutters sent some pictures in that there were phragmites in the area. The day we went out there, it was pretty much clear cut down to nothing. There were small areas of pooling. So again, it's a wet area. I'm not saying it's a wetland. But it is just a very wet area that has never been used for any recreational purposes. So again, I don't see that that's rare and unusual. And I think that you could gain some space with the existing area you have, and maybe bringing the existing wall up a little bit, potentially following that like 22-foot contour, I believe it's 22, or moving the stairs to a more safer area and still making this project work. So those are my comments.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think, Jay, in reality, the most critical aspect of this, and I mean, I know the applicant wanted to see a flat front yard, but I think the most critical aspect of this is trying to get a turnaround on the driveway. That would be, to me, that's the more critical issue here associated with this.
So I'm happy to focus in on that.
But if because I'm right now, I'm right at 5,200 square feet of, we've actually reduced it down from what was originally 8,600 down to about 5,200 square feet of alteration. So it's only about, I think it's about 4,600 inside the 50-foot buffer. So we really cut it back quite a bit. I think we dropped it. Obviously, most of what will be maintained was outside the limits of the 50-foot buffer. But even that, maybe what we can do is, and obviously we're going to continue this because it's quite obvious that the commission doesn't want to.
Well, I'm happy to have a little discussion here about the driveway so that we can iron out any issues with the driveway. The one good thing you have with the driveway is all of the work there is outside the 50-foot buffer. It gets very close to the 50, but there's not so much scrutiny on the outer buffer zone as there is the inner buffer zone 0 to 50. And so
I understand that, but my gut reaction to with my client is obviously you'd like to have he'd like to eliminate that slope if he can. Maybe a wall, but this is something I'm just gonna have to discuss with him. So it's obviously a big change from what he had hoped for. So let me do this, and because the other thing too is, and we saw it out there when we did the site walk, is that in reality, you know, when you look at the Phragmites and the wetland line, I mean, they're pretty consistent with the end of that boardwalk, with the start of the boardwalk. They're back in here. And I know Paul's online here. Maybe we can have Paul go out and just do some tests on the opposite side of the wall to see specifically, you know, where is the real limit of the wetland, not
Yep.
something from 2017, which is almost,
Right.
which is almost obsolete.
And yep, and I agree with that.
What is the limit of the wetlands on the abutting parcel in terms of where it comes into the parcel? And maybe then, you know, we might find out that the 50-foot buffer is not quite as extensive on the parcel as we think.
Right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Shea.
I can't do that.
Right.
The only way I could do that is if the abutting property owner were to allow me to come onto his land to do testing, and I'm gonna guess with some letters of objection that that's probably not gonna happen.
Yep. It's a great comment, Paul, and we've actually, Charlotte, I don't know if you want to chime in here. If you've had I know you've received some letters from the abutters. Have the abutters, and if their abutters are here in attendance this evening, the question is whether or not if the applicant, because we are using a wetland delineation from a previous project here, would the abutters be amenable to the applicant doing some, or a third party potentially doing some wetland delineation or some digging a couple holes on their property?
Yeah, I actually did talk to Lynn and Rob Schwant on the phone a couple days ago, and I believe that they said, I do see Lynn in the audience, so I'm not sure if she would like to chime in, but I believe they said that they would be potentially open to it based off of, you know, the discussions for this meeting. So I'm not sure if their opinion, you know, will sway yes or no based off of this meeting, but they did say they were potentially open to that possibility.
Okay. So that's something we're gonna have to follow up on.
Okay, Jay, let me just say, I think for a multitude of reasons, I think having a third party conduct the wetland delineation would be a good idea, particularly if we're going to go ahead with any project on that side of the drawing, because we're getting into the 50-foot, which is contested, let's be honest. We have one side that says it's the old stone wall, and we have the official delineation, which says that it goes onto the property of Hobart Lane. So one way or another, I think we need to get that sorted out by a neutral party.
Eric, that's not an issue. I can get a third party to get involved in this, and I can definitely get her to come out here and do some soil probes and be able to make that delineation.
Let me chime in here. So it sounds like, and I'm supportive of this, of having a third party perform a wetland delineation. First off, what we would need in order to make this happen is the property owner at 187, and I see a comment in the chat here. We would need the property owner at 187 Atlantic Ave to agree to having somebody on their personal property in order to do the wetland delineation. And there's a comment in the chat from the abutter that said, we will take this under advisement after we see the proponent's current delineation plan. So that it is still an issue. We don't have a solid yes or no answer here. However, you know, in order to move this forward, I'm open to somebody wanted to make a motion if we, and you know, this hearing is not going to be decided tonight. It's clearly going to be continued unless the applicant doesn't want to continue it and revise the plan. So if we're going to continue this and deliberate, we need a motion for a third party wetland delineation, and how that works is the town of Cohasset itself would secure at the owner's expense a wetland specialist who would do the wetland delineation. It wouldn't be somebody from the applicant's side of the house.
I'd point one more thing out, that 2017 wetlands delineation has expired. They're only good for 3 years. So
I know.
I'm very uncomfortable with the fact that we're even using this 2017
Mr.
wetland delineation.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just one thing, that the Conservation Commission in 2021, I believe, approved the project on the Schwantz property, and that was using the line from 2017. That wetland line should have been updated in 2021 because it was more than 3 years old when it came into your office.
Yeah, I'll have to check the date. I appreciate that comment, Paul. I have to check all the dates on that. That hearing was, I know it may have been approved in 2021, but it may have been submitted. It was submitted far prior to that we had a lengthy discussion about that. So I have to double check those dates. But I remember this project going back to at least 2020 being deliberated by the Conservation Commission.
I guess I believe on the Schwantz plan, the note for Brad Holmes delineation, it says 2017.
Yeah.
That's what's on the plan. I didn't make the plan.
Yeah, no, there's no question that the wetland delineation was 2017. My comment was that we're in 2021, but this project may have been a leftover or started within the 3-year time frame. It may have been proposed to the commission within the 3-year time frame. So in any event, we can certainly check the dates. As chair, I'll make a motion that we, if the abutter is amenable to having somebody go on their property and delineate the wetland, and it would require going onto 187 Atlantic Ave's property. If the homeowner were willing to accept somebody going on their property, I will make a motion to have a third-party independent review performed, wetland delineation on the property of 187, so that we can get a sense of where the wetland is here. This wetland delineation would be at the applicant's expense after securing, and you can talk to Charlotte and Angela, a little retainer that the town of Cohasset would go out and find a third party to do the wetland delineation. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Having heard a motion for a third party independent review for wetland delineation, a second, we'll do this by roll call vote. All those in favor, please say aye. William Ashton.
William Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell.
Tom Bell, aye.
Kathy Berrigan.
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Eric Eisenhower.
Eric Eisner, aye.
Jay Pimpare, aye. That vote passes 5-0. So you've got a couple moving parts here. And you've heard, I don't know, are there any other commissioners? I didn't hear from everyone, not that anybody has to speak, but are there any other further comments from the commissioners here regarding the work in the 50 or anything for that matter?
I'd just like to say I'd like to have time to read the documents that were put in at the last minute before I make any kind of decision, and also to read the proposal again that describes all the habitat that they are creating. It sounded quite substantial, and I would like to look at it all again, those two pieces together with the new documents that they just put in.
Okay.
And though the only thing that I would reinforce is the amount of fill that's being brought in. That's one of the biggest concerns, one of mine and everyone else's.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so clearly we're going to continue this hearing. I mean, our next hearing is November 18th, 2 weeks from tonight. I have to be honest, I don't know that the wetland delineation will be done by then. It might be, but I think it depends on what the delineation states. It will give you a course of action on how you want to move forward with this project.
No, I agree, Jay. It definitely, if the wetland delineation comes out like I believe it's going to come out, then yeah, then the answer is obviously there's going to be some changes. And I think listening to the commission, yeah, definitely, I can reduce the overall scope to be able to reduce the amount of fill required within the limits of the buffer.
Okay. I think you have to see what the wetland delineation is gonna come back at first before you
Yeah,
make any
no,
decisions
I
here.
agree. I
Okay,
agree.
so I'd like to, are you okay to continue this hearing?
Yes, I am. I'll defer it off to my client, but yes, I am willing to do the deferment because I obviously, I believe things are gonna improve with a new wetland line.
Yeah. I don't think you want us to vote on it tonight.
No, I don't want you to vote on it tonight.
So, I will, let's continue this hearing until November 18th. And, if prior to that, if all of the information, which I honestly probably not going to be ready in time, we would just continue it till the first meeting in December if need be. But let's just put it on the next agenda for the 18th. And then if we can hear it that night, great. And if we have to continue it 2 weeks after that, we will.
That's fine. That's
Okay.
fine.
Gary, I have one question. What is your expected timing on this project? Your proposed timing? Is it always as soon as possible, or, yeah, how are you looking at doing this work? Okay,
We've lost the growing season, Eric. In my mind, maybe try and
okay.
look at putting something in around for the driveway. But even now, we're in the winter months. We're almost in the winter months. I mean, the other thing too is the contractors right now are all like straight out. So I don't even know when we can get the contractor back in here to be able to even get this started on this.
I think you've given me my answer. Thank you very much.
My gut
Okay.
reaction is this is a spring project.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that.
I'd sure like to see any changes arrive before the day of our meeting. I didn't have a chance to look at any of this.
Yeah.
And I think that 7-day issue should be, we should really be sure that that's complied with.
Yeah, it's a good comment. Thank you, Tom.
I will work, Tom, to get it in time. I apologize. My schedule the last like 3 months has been crazy.
And the power outage last week didn't help things, so get a little bit of a pass. And
Thank
what is also not only for the commission to review, but it's also for any interested parties, AKA the abutters, who would like to see the proposed changes, et cetera, and allow all of the interested parties to have an opportunity to comment during these public hearing processes. So let's continue this hearing until the 18th, and by the Monday before the hearing, I think we'll have a better idea of where we are with this, as far as whether or not we have the submitted information or whether or not we continue it till the first meeting in December.
All right, sir. Thank you very
All
much.
right.
Very nice speaking to all of you again today.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thank you. Good night.
Okay, our next item of business is an amended order of conditions for the project 811, 819 Jerusalem Road, the Greek Orthodox Church, for NOI 18-01, 811 through 819 Jerusalem Road. And Charlotte, if you could promote whoever's going to be present, and excuse me, I have to go to my phone to read the public notice record here and blow this up a little bit. The eyes aren't as good as they used to be. Let me read into the record the public hearing. In accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetland Bylaw and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, the Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on Thursday, November 4th, 2021, to amend the order of conditions for notice of intent 18-01 and stormwater permit 18-01 for a redevelopment of church property at 811-819 Jerusalem Road by South Shore Hellenic Church applicants. The public is invited to offer public input on this application in writing by email and hailing at cohassetmass.org in advance of the public hearing, and also attend via the Zoom platform. And so just for the record, the next, before I forget here, the next hearing, if anyone's here in the audience for NOI 21-17-502 North Main Street, that project is going to be continued until November 18th. So this is the last public hearing on the record for this evening. John, welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Charlotte, Angela, John Cavanero from Cavanero Consulting in Norwell, Massachusetts, and I'm here on behalf of the Greek Orthodox Church, as you mentioned. This is a project that is currently under construction. It was approved, I think, back in 2018. It has received an extension to the order of conditions, as well as the inherent extension through the tolling period for the pandemic. But we're in front of you this evening for what we would consider a minor modification to redirect a drainage overflow pipe. And if you would allow me to share screen, if that was okay.
Yeah, please do. Thank you, John.
I can do that. So going back to the original plan that was approved back in 2018, we had a series of drainage improvements on the site, but most notably, the parking area that we had proposed was a porous pavement parking area with essentially a reservoir underneath the pavement that was connected to a series of shallow pipes that were going to pass through a lawn area to an outlet that had vegetation proposed at its discharge point. We initially thought that this needed to be pretty shallow, so we had multiple pipes going through here, small pipes. What we didn't anticipate is the existing utilities to be so shallow that cross transversely between the street to the building.
Could you just blow that up just a little bit more, please?
Sure.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yep. So this is the area in question. We originally had an overflow pipe that came with perforated pipe and stone that was proposed to daylight in the lawn area, and that would be enhanced with some vegetation at the outlet. When doing the initial exploration for the siting of this line, it was determined that and discovered that this gas line that passes from the street to the building was set at a higher elevation than what we had anticipated. So what it did was it created a direct conflict of these pipes that pass through this area. So it was thought, well, could we lower the pipe? No, because that essentially creates a pool here. And the whole purpose of this was to have an overflow outlet that drained into the adjacent wetland. We can't elevate the pipe anymore because that would create more fill in the area and disrupt what's already been approved in a more dramatic fashion, as well as disrupt an existing deep sump catch basin that was installed as part of the original approval as well. So the alternative to this was to, and I'll blow this up a little bit, was instead of having this overflow trench go to daylight through the existing utilities, we're proposing to relocate it and connect it to this existing deep sump catch basin. Still have a perforated pipe. It still serves as an overflow, so it's indirect runoff that gets picked up after it passes through the porous pavement and the crushed stone. But instead of having 3 shallow pipes, we're proposing just 1 6-inch overflow pipe that can connect fairly cleanly to this existing catch basin, which this catch basin has a treatment in it too. So this actually provides a little bit more treatment for any outfall that comes from the porous reservoir. And instead of having our plantings in a low area in the existing lawn, the thought was to relocate that planting area at an existing low point that collects direct runoff from Jerusalem Road through a paved apron. And this right now really creates more sedimentation and pollution directly to Straits Pond and its associated wetland than real, and what we think would be actually a better improvement than just vegetating the outlet that was from the original overflow pipe. So this is essentially the amendment that we're proposing,
Okay.
to reconnect this to the existing deep sump catch basin, and to relocate our plantings to what we think would be a more beneficial location.
Thanks, John. Quick question. So you talked about the indirect discharge from the porous pavement area,
Right.
and in the overflow. In all honesty, how much water do you actually think is going to be coming off of that porous pavement area or infiltrating into that pipe? Is it fairly minimal?
Yeah, we're not seeing we're seeing a reduction in direct flow into Straits Pond as a result of this. We're seeing a slight increase, but then a decrease depending on the storm event, because what happens is the storms get routed through this reservoir and it's pretty low flow. What happens is, because we want this to drain and not to stay wet during the winter season and potentially have a freeze thaw, we want this to drain. But in reality, what happens in the larger storm events is that this holds a lot of water, and this will only discharge so much. So this doesn't see, it's, when I say indirect, because it's not as if we have a catch basin in this parking lot and it's constantly flowing. This is going through a series of streams and not streams, but treatment trains before it actually gets there. And
so it's minimal flow on most events. And when we have very small events, maybe 0.1 inches of rain, there may be no flow at all.
Right.
Charlotte, any comments on this?
Yeah, so I did go to the site and did indeed observe the existing, low point here, where you clearly can see that, it's going directly into the wetland area. So putting a vegetated strip there per the site plan seemed like a decent solution. And then also, if you look at the letter that was submitted with the amended NOI request, there are updated drainage calculations that were a slight improvement from the previously approved plan.
Thank you. Tom, I'll put you on the spot. I know you walk by this area many times, and an advocate of Straits Pond. From my view here, we're gaining in the sense of we're gaining 300 square feet of the vegetated swale there. As you know, the water, not from this property, but water from coming across the street in the hill and Jerusalem Road in general, it's almost like a point source discharge over there. I think that the vegetated swale is a big benefit to not only this site, but even managing existing conditions that we see today. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree completely. This is an improvement over the original design. So I'm sort of glad that gas pipe's there. But yeah, a definite improvement. Like to see it going into that catch basin there on the street, and it's good to hear that there's some degree of treatment where it ties into that. So yeah, I'm all for it.
Right. Any other comments from the commission or from the audience?
This is probably an existing one of our existing requirements, but with the porous pavement, is there going to be a treatment plan for that to maintain the property?
Yeah, so I'll direct that question to you in a second here. So this is, as John mentioned, this is an existing, this property was approved, well, it was approved several times here. The latest was a year or two ago. So it's an existing property, but Chris, you did bring up a good point here. It's going to mention porous pavement, and something that the town would like to see more of. We had lengthy discussions on Sawyer Street, but John, is there an operation and maintenance plan for that? Or can you just address the maintenance of the porous pavement, please?
Yeah, so as part of this project, we're under a stormwater permit as well, which required an operation and maintenance plan, both through construction and long-term. pollution prevention plan. So that part of that is a maintenance program for the stormwater management facilities on site. And one of them is actually the porous pavement. So that's considered actually a stormwater management facility. So that requires inspection, and it inherently sort of requires maintenance as well. It's almost like a large gutter that needs to be maintained on an annual basis.
Yeah, I walked that area quite a bit. I don't live too far from there, just down the street. I'll commend you on I guess the attempts on around the catch basins. There's a filter fabric that is around the catch basins, and it's certainly 99% better than others I've seen, which is no fabric at all. But is there any way to put a little small, like maybe 2 or 3 inch silt sock around those catch basins? I know they're in a low lying area. They do catch a little bit of sediment, but for the existing project, again, the filter fabric is great, but when sediment kind of overflows and sits on it, then the filter fabric sits down and sediment just hits those catch basins, and they fill up, and that's where you're going to get your overflow. So a comment for the ongoing construction, if there's, the little around that would be great. Okay. Any further comments on this one? So we'll do this separately. Jay Pimpari will make a motion. It looks like there is work in the 50 because there's a vegetated swale there. Jay Pimpari will make a motion to issue a variance for the project to work within the 50-foot buffer for the project at, well, I guess we're amending the existing to amend the existing order of conditions to reflect the plan dated, and I don't have the date of the plan there. If somebody could please help me what the date of that plan is.
Last revised on 8/19/21.
Okay, so Jay can probably make a motion to amend the existing order of conditions and issue a variance for the work at 811, 819 Jerusalem Road, the Greek Orthodox Church, to reflect the updated plan of August 19th, 2021. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, Jay. Can I interrupt? I
Yeah.
made a mistake. It's
That's
actually
okay, sorry.
10/7/21. Is that correct?
Yep.
Charlotte?
Yep, that's right. I was
I'm
just
sorry.
pulling up the plan.
Yeah,
Okay.
my apologies.
I will amend the motion that to amend the order of conditions to reflect the plan of the updated plan of 10/7/2021. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Having heard a motion and a second, all those in favor, please say aye after I call your name. William Ashton,
William Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Eric Eisenhower,
Eric Eisenhower, aye.
Jay Pimpari, aye. That vote passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. I
Right.
appreciate your consideration.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, folks.
Have a good night.
You too.
Okay, I guess we have to continue this one. Let me pull up the agenda here. The next order of business is NOI 21-17, 502 North Main Street, the Ahern project. There was an issue with the public noticing of this project. So we're going to continue this hearing till November 18th, 2021. And moving on to the Conservation Commission business, approval of orders of conditions for previously approved projects. Charlotte, I know you had a couple of them out there. I gave you a couple of very minor, quick little comments.
Thank you.
They were from, I believe, Sawyer Street and Doan Street.
Correct.
And so we're at the 14-day mark of the 21-day timeframe to get them out. Anybody have any comments to those additional comments? Great. Charlotte, I don't know if you were waiting on Amy or anybody on Sawyer Street.
Yeah, if the commission doesn't have any other comments, I'm happy to issue it unless we want to wait for legal counsel just to weigh in. I know there were a lot of conditions with the Sawyer Street project. The 125 Dome one is pretty straightforward, but
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody has any additional edits last minute or, just let me know.
Yeah, well, no, well, let's, this is last minute, so I want to move
Okay.
this, so in case you haven't noticed, I want to move this night along.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
If there's no further comment, I don't think we need a motion here,
Okay.
but I think just issue those and let the
Sounds good.
applicants know that the order of conditions is ready to be picked up at town hall based on the signatures.
Sounds good.
Next item of business is reports from the chair and the conservation agent. Charlotte, I'll let you go first. I don't know if you want to just wrap in the project updates as part of the reports. By all means, take it away.
Sure. Yeah, I can spout these off. So there are a few documents in OneDrive in the November 4th meeting folder, if anybody would like to view those, but I did send most of them around. The Straits Pond preliminary survey proposal, I sent that to you guys via email. I'm not sure if anyone had any other questions, but basically what they're planning to do is they want to do some bathymetry and soil sampling to look at one of the deltas in Straits Pond. And, reading through the proposal, it was, discussed obviously with the technical advisory committee for Straits Pond. It is still pending Hingham Conservation Commission input, but the whole Conservation Commission, okayed it. It's not officially yet the public final version, so that's why they were sending it around for comments and edits. So I don't know if anyone from the commission had any other thoughts on it, but they don't seem to be in any rush to get it approved. They just wanted to reach out to everybody in all the towns and all the different, stakeholders.
Yeah.
But the work is very minimal, the bathymetry work and the soil sampling, at least from Hull's perspective, did not need an RDA. So if anyone has any comments, feel free to reach out to me directly.
So is the area that they're looking at basically behind the Greek church that we were just talking about, or is it throughout the pond in general, or is it, Tom, maybe you know more?
Yeah,
but is it
Tom,
just
the bridge we went to, it was that delta area that was a little bit further up from what we were looking at. Is that near the Greek church?
Yeah, it's right behind the Pope Memorial Church, and that's the area they're talking about, right from where the rapids kind of are closest to the tide gate, and then I think it goes up to that large rock that's farther up.
I believe so. Yep.
Maybe 150 feet there, 200 feet, something like that. And I presume across the whole width of the channel at low tide. So it's a pretty small area, and the objective there is to determine the depth of the water there, but also to determine the depth of any loose fill.
great?
I shouldn't say fill, a loose sediment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Depth, basically depth to bedrock.
Yeah. In the ultimate goal here, I assume, is that if there were an area that they could actually dig and trench or dredge, I should say, dredge that area, even 6 inches or a foot,
Right.
that would increase significantly the flow
Exactly.
of water going in and out of Straits Pond twice a day during the high, well, I guess essentially, twice a day with the high and low tides.
Yeah, that's right. It'll increase flow. It won't, by dropping it a foot, it just so happens Straits Pond's approximately 100 acres. And if they dropped it a foot, of course, because of the drag as the tide's going out, it's not going to drain 100 acre feet, but some significant fraction of that. So it will make a pretty big difference, I think, if they get a foot taken out of it. And you're going to start seeing some mudflats out there.
Yeah.
If that happens. But on the other hand, that increase in tidal exchange will probably have a pretty significant impact on the temperature of the pond, because you're diluting it with cooler estuary water. And that should be a big improvement to the ecological balance of the pond.
Yeah. Well, certainly keep us posted on that project, on that proposal. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, I can, if everyone's okay with it, I can reach out back to the whole conservation administrator, I believe is his title. And I can just say
Chris.
that, we reviewed it.
Yep.
Yeah, Chris Crawford. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. And then these are also in OneDrive, but we did receive the public comment periods for the Mass DEP Chapter 191 licenses for the projects at 137 Nichols and 51 Gammons Road. They look like peer projects. So I'm sorry, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. I'm happy to give them to you guys, but they just, I got those notices in late September and late October. So the one for 137, I believe the public comment period, I think it starts on November 8th, and the other one started on like October 5th or October 8th or something like that. So just wanted to make you guys aware of those.
Thank you.
And then for project updates, I've been to a few sites. So thank you, Tom, for your heads up on Howe Road. I just went there this morning to 80 and 102 Howe Road. I also contacted John Rem, to let him know that the erosion barriers are definitely, they took a beating. There's some mess in the street with the sediment. So Tom, I think you said they were cleaning it up because I told them this morning that, I will come back to look at them for 80 and 102. 80 was definitely in a little bit worse shape because it's higher up and, definitely, more of the sediment was going down the street. 102 was in better condition because it's a little bit tucked away, but there were some erosion barrier, improvements that I think you could just add a different another layer, another barrier on top of the barrier that's right in front of the wetlands area, because it wasn't damaged, but it's definitely like a little low and then the water rose with the street. So it was kind of level almost with the barrier. So if putting another one on top of that will definitely help. So yeah, talk to them about doing that and I'll follow up and make sure that those are cleaned up, but they all seemed very responsive of, oh yeah, we'll do that right away. So,
Charlotte, the blasting contractor had laid down his blast pads.
Oh yeah, thank you. That was the other update. So yeah, they're preparing for that. So they're at the site at 102 is set up for blasting.
Yeah, but he'd laid them down in the 50-foot buffer, right on the vegetation.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, they were just to the left of the driveway. Maybe they'd moved them by the time you got out there.
I didn't see them in the driveway area, but I'll double check. I'll go back.
They were they're only maybe 20 feet off the street, so maybe they moved them up onto the site.
Okay. Yeah, at least I did take some photos, but when I saw the little the holes that they dug and put in the little whatever material that is, it looked like it was just like up on the
Oh, they've already drilled their blast holes, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh yeah, so I'm sure they've moved the pads up over the top of those.
They actually said the blasting might start tomorrow. They invited me to come out and look at it if I wanted to, so I might just do that because I've never seen it before. But I'm not obviously allowed to go very close, but yeah, I'm not going to go right up there, but I'll definitely,
What time are they doing that? I'd like a look. Do you know?
He didn't give a time. He did say most likely tomorrow. That was John Rem who said that. So
normally they do.
Anyone is in the area, heads up.
Okay, good to know.
Yep. And then I will provide more updates on this as it comes, but for 76 Lambert's Lane, as we know, there's been a lot of back and forth with changes, correspondence back and forth with the neighbors and various, different people and previous agents. So what I'm trying to do is kind of, get that full timeline of events. There were, the applicant sent me a lot of different documents and emails that were just going back and forth with the previous agents, with the building inspector, with various people. And there is also just so people are aware, there's a public records request from the abutter for 76 Lambert's Lane. So the town is looking into, accommodating that request. But essentially, the project is almost done. The sports court is almost complete. They don't expect for the plantings to be completely done until the spring of 2022, but I believe I need to double check the order conditions expiration. They might need to get an extension, but by then I'm hoping to kind of look through all those little mini conversations, everything going back and forth with site plans and stuff. So I'll provide more updates as they come, but just wanted to give a preliminary update that I'm looking into this site. I visited on Monday with the applicant and I believe one of the landscapers. So yeah, that one I will provide more updates as they come. And then same thing with Dolan Lane. I'm actually going to the site tomorrow. At least when I visited in mid-October, it looked like that some trees were cut down just outside the 25-foot isolated vegetated wetlands, buffer line. So I'm going back again to confirm that. So I will provide more information after tomorrow. Let's see other sites. The Border Street Bridge for the Harbor project. I did take photos, which I'm happy to share and drag into my site visit folder, but they've started, obviously, the repair of the bridge. They have repaired some of the holes on the left-hand side of the bridge that's further away, right near the harbor master's office. So they've patched up that stuff up pretty nicely. They have a good setup where they have like this curtain, surrounding the floating platform to prevent any debris from going into the water. So I'm kind of keeping an eye on that. And kind of just anytime I'm near Border Street, I just like drive by and look at it. And so they did say a couple months ago it would be done in a couple months, but they definitely have a while to go. So I'm not sure if it will go into 2022 or if they'll finish everything up quickly, but I'll keep you guys posted.
Charlotte, did it look like they had done anything with respect to the corroding rebar? Sandblasted it and painted it, or done anything to preserve it?
I think so, yeah. Like what they were doing is, kind of chipping away at the old stuff, fixing the rebar, and then doing the shotcrete and putting it, over, and then, kind of smoothing it out. That's at least how they explained the general process to me. Yeah, and they're taking all the debris, walking it over some, I mean, it looks secure, but to me, it looks a little dangerous. It's like a narrow plank, and they're carrying all the fill off the floating platform, and they're carrying it uphill to, where the road is, or the little road that goes into the marina area. So they're taking all the debris away from the floating platform.
Okay, thank you.
I did have more updates, but right now I'm kind of blanking. Hi,
You
Eric.
know, that's totally fine.
Charlotte,
Hi.
I've been receiving a number of telephone calls
Yes.
from people living in the area of Treats Pond.
Oh.
Yes, thank you. That was my other update.
I tell them, no document, no project, call Charlotte, all right? I give them your telephone number. Because as far as I'm concerned, we don't have a project yet, but I know there's a lot of things cooking.
Yes,
Anyway,
yes.
update, you know anything about the project or where it stands, or?
Thank you. Yes, that was my other update. So thank you for reminding me. So I think you guys saw this email, but at the request of one of the owners of 95 Atlantic Ave, after this most recent storm, there's a lot of flooding, as everyone knows, on Atlantic Ave in general, but Treats Pond, overflows and goes into the Atlantic Ave abutters properties, and you can really see it from 91 and 95 Atlantic Ave. So at the request of the owner for 95 Atlantic, he invited Conservation Commission to come out and look at the flooding on his property and kind of walk along Atlantic Ave and look at the Treats Pond in general. So I went with Tom and the director of DPW and Board of Health. Pam Fahey's the director of Board of Health, and Brian Joyce is the director for DPW. And so Brian from DPW is working on a proposal which he will bring to conservation in the near future about, addressing this Treats Pond flooding issue. And basically what they plan to do is to extend the pipe that's already existing. The outfall is on Sandy Cove. So I'll let Brian, when he presents, talk more about it, but that's why they wanted to view, he wanted conservation to view the flooding to see how big the problem really is. And if anyone's driven down Atlantic Ave after a storm, you guys definitely know. So there will be, there will be a proposal in the future.
Yeah, that I think that's the good. Thank you for the great update, and the bottom line is yes, we can and we should anticipate the Treats Pond application in front of the commission, where we can further deliberate on it when we actually see what the final product is going to look like.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, I pass.
That's all I had.
Did you get a chance to look at, I believe it's 44 Atlantic?
Yeah,
Mike?
so
Yeah.
yes, I went to the site today. It is a little hard for me to tell what was exactly installed. There is, it looks like the sewer connection in that area, but everything's buried, so I couldn't see the infiltration system. So I'm going to try and call the engineer and just kind of confirm what was exactly done there. I didn't see any exposed drains or anything like that. That's why it was kind of hard for me to tell what was done, because everything was kind of covered with dirt now. But I want to look back at the order conditions in the site plan. I had the current site plan in front of me, and it looked like everything was good, but underneath the soil, I'm not sure. So I will get back to you guys on that. But yes, I will reply to your emails too.
Did that site plan show a infiltration chamber that was to be installed? That's
Yeah, I
what
think
my-
it was, oh, I'm blanking on the exact name, but it was,
Caltech perhaps?
yep, yeah, I think so. I
It should
think
have,
so.
it should have a manhole
Mhm,
an access lid there somewhere.
okay.
And it'd
Um,
have to be between the house and the street because it's got to go downhill. So if you didn't see a manhole cover there that was, that didn't say sewer on it,
mhm.
then maybe, let me back up a little bit to fill the rest of you in. When we were at 95 Atlantic, the owner, Mike Sheely.
Yeah, Mike Skiri?
Something like that. Yeah, he said that he'd lived there since 1964 or something like that. He said that he watched the house go in,
Mhm,
and he said he did not see them put in a Caltech chamber.
okay,
And he was complaining about the discharge from that property. He said it was considerably more than he'd ever seen it. And that house was built in 20, it shows up on actually 2020 historic photos. So it was built in 2020. And it's his claim that they never installed their infiltration chamber. So that's what we were trying to confirm. Had they put it in?
yeah, I'll look back at my photos again, and I might just go again because I go to Atlantic Ave, for a lot of other properties. So yeah, I will check that again, but I did want to call the engineer as well because again, a lot of it was covered with dirt, and other than this black plastic pipe that looked like it was like the sewer drainage, I didn't see anything else other than that. So I will definitely look into that further, but I wanted to take
Thank
a
you.
better look at the order of conditions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, please keep an eye on all of that.
Charlotte?
Hi.
Hi, I believe you said you would have an update on 32 Windy Hill Road also?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
so just so everyone awares, as everyone, I think I had some updates last meeting, but following up on that, after a lot of deliberation with the applicant, who's also the developer, the building inspector, the planning board, and also notifying the chair of planning, there are some, concerns from the residents of, about the ledge outcrop chipping, and it's now completely gone at this point. Kathy, I saw a massive mountain later, but or earlier this week, sorry. But, essentially planning did apparently discuss preserving the ledge, but because planning required that they move the house footprint further away from the trees on the opposite side to preserve the trees, the ledge was kind of therefore taken out. The only problem with that is planning didn't specifically issue a condition to preserve the ledge. And so it's unfortunate that, the ledge was taken out, but, on the plus side, the other trees were preserved. However, one thing that I am closely monitoring is just outside of the erosion barrier on the northern side, there are some really large trees, and the, with the digging and the chipping with the ledge, he is working within the line of work. He's not going outside of it. However, the trees now have small roots that are partially exposed. And so I did talk about this with Chris and Jay, and Chris suggested, asking the applicant to cover those roots with like dirt or some sort of cover. He said he expects to finish the project in May or June of next year, but we're just concerned from, a general standpoint of what's going to happen to those trees. He did say he'd repair that area with dirt and fill it in and make it all look nice. But again, with winter coming around and, they'll be buried, but it's no large roots have been exposed right now, but I do want to go back and check. So Kathy, I'm going to be visiting in the future to make sure that he, I did talk to the engineer and the applicant, and they did say verbally that they would add the dirt or the, something on top of the tree roots or fill it back in to make sure that it's protected. But I'm going to make sure that that follows through. But yeah, from a planning perspective, Kathy, I'm not sure if you have any other questions. I'm happy to relay them to Lauren Lind or Amy Glassmeyer, but I did send Amy and Lauren an email update of all of the concerns, the site visits, the site visit summary. I haven't sent them the summary directly, but it is in OneDrive now if you guys would like to look at it. Yeah, pretty much just another project we're going to be closely monitoring to make sure that he's following the approved site plan One thing that I will just, note is planning approved the project in June. We approved it in July, so planning didn't technically see the updated site plan. Other than some of the changes of quote unquote reconfiguring the pool area, he didn't change the size of the pool, but he changed the patio size and reduced it a little bit. That was a condition from planning upon approval that the pool design had to be reconfigured. So I'm not sure if that's satisfactory for planning. So I'm kind of just waiting for input on if Lauren or Amy respond to my email. But planning had a couple conditions that, he seems to be at this time following, but it's just a shame the ledge wasn't really officially put as a condition. So that's not a conservation thing, but yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. That isn't a conservation thing, and that was my initial concern. Like, the ledge,
Yeah.
of course, we don't want it to be gone, but we know that
Yeah.
there's not much you can do about that. But my point was that happened because the plan that the Conservation Commission approved and the Planning Board approved was dated June 7th, 21. So when Mr. Richards showed up, when I noticed that looked like he was digging in places that weren't according to that plan, the one that was June 7th, 21, that's when I called you and you came, and he showed up with a different plan, 7/7/21, which I couldn't find anywhere on the Cohasset website. And you had a plan and he had a plan, and a big plan. And when you looked at it, it looked like the June plan, but it wasn't. And then when I asked him why, how does this plan correlate with, or the original plan correlate with this, he said, Mr. Richards said, well, in order to accommodate the conditions given by the planning board to keep the existing tree line, he said, I just pushed back the whole project. And he put his hands over the project and like he pushed it back. And therefore, it ended up over that chunk of outcrop, which was kind of saved before that, because when the planning board told them to reduce it to from a 3-car garage to a 2-car garage. But I know this is more of a planning board issue, but if my question is to everybody, if we approve as a board, approve a site plan, does a developer just get to shift the whole project back without coming back to us and asking? Because that's essentially what he did.
After talking to the engineer,
because ComCon approved that plan dated June 7th, and so
we approved the July 7th plan. So like Jeff did confirm that
the commission didn't, and it was nowhere until.
I think I can confirm in the YouTube video, but Jeff Hassett, at least the engineer, confirmed that he presented the 7/7 plan to conservation, who approved it. But the problem is, I don't think it went back to planning.
He verbally said some of the some of the things on it, but he did not show the plan. The plan we were working with was the June one. And also,
I have a copy of the 7/7 one. The big one that I brought, it was dated July 7th.
That was nowhere. Like, you gave me a copy that I looked everywhere.
When was the last hearing on this?
It was July 15th, I believe.
That was
the last hearing for conservation was July 15th.
We approved the stormwater permit on that day.
And so what you're trying to say is that on July, let's go back and listen to the tape again. I know that, and see what was on the tape, and if the July 7th, which was before July 15th, obviously was the plan of record that we were looking at and or approved. And you can go back to the OneDrive and see if it's on the OneDrive, but
yeah, Jeff
it is on the
Hassett.
OneDrive, and we didn't approve that one. We had this June one. I searched like 45 pages, web pages of online to find that. It wasn't. I first saw it like last week when you gave it to Charlotte.
So, no, I haven't watched the YouTube video yet, but I did. Jeff Hassett forwarded me the email that was sent to Steve Ivis before the meeting with the updated site plan dated 7/7 with a letter describing the changes. So that is the one thing that I want to confirm was discussed at the meeting. I don't know where I don't know if the minutes are finalized, but that's something that we can look back at as well. But as far as at least when I asked the engineer directly, and, you know, he forwarded me the original email to Steve Ivis, that was, you know, with the July 7th plan. So I
Can
would
we,
assume that one was.
Angela, can I ask that we, to get a copy of the draft minutes? Hopefully the minutes are drafted of the
Right.
July meeting and hopefully close to completion. But look at the draft minutes, and then Charlotte to also look at the tape
The YouTube, yeah.
and listen to the tape and just do a cross reference on these plans so that we can see what the next steps are. And hopefully, I don't remember offhand. I have to be honest. I can't recall what
Mhm.
exactly plan we were looking at on each
Mhm.
particular date, but sympathetic to you, Kathy, and the butters over there, understand the situation, and just want to make sure that everyone's is understanding of it all.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I just want to say it's, excuse me, I just want to say it is personal to me also. I'm in a butter and a Concom person, but beyond that, it's I'm even more disturbed by the fact that we approve one plan and then the person gets to just move it. I mean, that
Well, yeah, no, I totally understand.
just, I
And
mean,
this is yet another reason why when my week to week meetings with Charlotte, I keep hopping on the inspections and going out there with the approved site plans and looking at that when the first shovel goes in the ground, just to make sure that everything is on the up and up, and to stay on, do weekly inspections, etc. They could be 5-minute inspections, but to really stay on the contractors from the beginning. Our goal, once the foundation is in, like, it's almost like we're, and then a little bit of site work is done, it's almost like we kind of walk away from it. And then it becomes, you know, we don't care about the electrical and what color the shingles are and all that. Just worried about the foundation, and which is obviously the first step. So, and Charlotte's I sound like a broken record when I talk to her each week to say, do the inspections. So.
I've been to Windy Hill several times, so
Yeah.
yeah, I'm all over that one.
Okay, and we totally understand you, Kathy. So, Charlotte, just please pull that up as much as you can, and continue to reach out to Kathy on that.
Yeah, will do.
thank you.
I don't have much of an update. I wasn't planning on chairing this meeting up until about 2 hours ago. But the only thing I say is we should be hearing from a town council in Charlotte with a date in the next maybe month or so about potentially a Monday or a Tuesday night with doing like a Conservation Commission Wetland 101 presentation from town council. So just look for that date when it is announced.
Yeah, I think most people have gotten back to me at this point. It seems like Monday, Tuesday nights do seem to work well for most people. So I will find a day that works well with Amy. And, you know, for anybody who can't attend, we'll go from there and see if we want to do anything extra, but we'll try to find a date that works best for everybody or the majority.
Great.
So we're finally going to find out what our jobs are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Charlotte, do we have anything to sign?
Nope, the 2 orders of condition, I will issue those as long as, you know, and nobody has any other comments for the 125 Doan and Sawyer Street.
I don't. I just did send you an email a couple minutes ago.
Okay.
About a wetland delineation specialist who we have used in the
Thank you.
past.
Okay,
And feel free to reach out to that individual
sure.
tomorrow and see if he is available, or Monday.
Okay.
And then see and give him the plan and see what a reasonable rate would be. He's not have any. I'll talk to you about this tomorrow,
Yeah.
Monday.
That sounds good.
Any topics not reasonably anticipated within the past 48 hours?
Don't think so.
I have one. Well, it's not Concom related. I don't know if this is the right spot to bring this up, but I just got word that my Army Reserve unit's being activated. So I'm going to be out of the loop for 3 to 6 months in Wisconsin with the Afghans that we brought back that are resettling in the US. So that I'll be out of the loop on this, obviously, but I just wanted to bring that up to everyone.
Yeah.
It's only a 2-hour time difference. You can easily log into the meeting.
If the work's light there, I definitely will. I just have to see what
well.
the deal is.
Thanks for your service, Will.
Of course.
Yeah, thanks.
And yeah, if you know just shoot us an email if you know the exact date on when you're going to be out of the loop there.
It's December 1st, actually. So
December
very
1st.
quickly,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Do
Well,
you speak?
hopefully we see you on the 18th.
Yes, yeah, I'll be here.
What, well, speaking of the 18th, I always like to ask, what is the 18th looking like? I know we have a continuance for Hobart, which that's
Mhm.
unlikely that we'll probably hear that, given everything that's going on with time. But what else do we have for the 18th? Anything?
So we have a category 1 stormwater permit that Chris, and, after deliberation, we wanted to, see it. It's at 258 North Main Street.
Okay,
It was originally called 256, but now
Yep.
that it's subdivided, so there's 258, which is in the back. I'm sorry,
Right.
258's in the front, closest to the street. 256 is in the back. So that one will be a stormwater permit. And then we'll continue the 502 North Main amended order of conditions
okay.
request.
And that's it.
As far as we know,
Okay.
yes, the deadline for new applications has already closed. If there's any other random revisions, there's a slightly different deadline, but I know Angela and I are talking about like trying to just, I don't know if we want to change deadline dates to like not get documents last minute. So,
Yeah.
but it's for new applications, it's closed.
Okay, well, it seems like a relatively light agenda 2 weeks from tonight. I don't think anyone's going to complain with that. All right.
Well, hold on, I would like to thank you for injecting a bit of discipline. You've done a great job into this whole question of submissions and timing and all that. It's a world of change, and you've done, keep it up. It's going really well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I apologize for the last minute documents. For 12 Hobart, I just got them this afternoon. So moving
yeah.
forward, I will try to be stricter with you. Didn't give me documents in time. So, yeah.
Great job.
Totally understand. Thank you all. All right, if there's no further business, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Having heard a motion in a second, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 This meeting is ended. Have a great night. Thank you.
See you, everyone.
Bye-bye.